A black car stops silently at the gate. Minjin steps out. The night is quiet. The air is cool. The guard at the heavy gate bows silently. The gate slides open with a soft creak. Minjin walks along the cobbled garden paths toward the house. The windows are dark. Only the light on the porch and a lone lantern by the pond gleam. This house is his fortress. It has thick walls, the best security systems, loyal people. It's safe. It's empty. He enters the hallway. The silence inside is even deeper than outside. Only the ticking of the clock. He looks at the stairs leading to the second floor. There are guest rooms there. One of them is no longer empty. His daughter, Naomi, sleeps there. He thinks about her. He sent her far away, so that this silence and these walls would not become her world. And now she is here. And this thought makes the quiet house uneasy. He goes up to his office, but doesn't turn on the computer. He sits down in the chair. A different image appears before his eyes. Not this cold office. An airport many years ago. Bustle, voices, and a little girl holding his hand tightly. Her eyes are wide, a mixture of fear and curiosity. Her hair is braided into small, tight pigtails with multicolored beads. She looks at him and asks in broken Korean, "Are we going home now?" Her mother had been gone for 6 months. He was left alone with 5-year-old Naomi. That day at the airport, for the first time, he felt fear more intense than any confrontation. Fear for this fragile creature. He nodded then. Yes, now home. This home. Then there was her laughter in empty corridors, her drawings on official documents. He keeps one in his safe. A sun like a flower, and 2 stick figures, one large, one small, holding hands. Then came the decision, the best boarding school in Switzerland. Letters, the occasional phone call. The drawings gave way to laconic. The silence between them grew, as if someone had planted it and watered it too. He's distracted from his thoughts by the quiet sound of an engine outside, unusual for this time of day. Minjin goes to the window. A taxi is driving down the alley toward the house. It stops. A young woman with a large duffel bag gets out. He recognizes her immediately, even from this distance and in the darkness. Her posture, the way her head is turned. Naomi. She's paying the driver and looking at the house as if assessing it. Minjin feels a strange jolt inside. Not alarm. Something else. Surprise. She didn't warn him. She didn't call. She just arrived. He slowly descends into the hall just as the main door opens. She enters. She's wearing simple jeans, sneakers, and a dark jacket. She looks tired from the journey, but her gaze is sharp, attentive. It scans the hall and then stops at him. "Hello, father," she says. Her Korean is still good, but there's a distinct foreign accent to it. Minjin stands in the middle of the cold marble hall. He doesn't move. He nods. That's all he can do for a second. "Naomi, you didn't warn me. It was a spontaneous idea. We're taking a break from school. I thought I'd drop by. I hope I'm not disturbing you." She says it lightly, but her eyes are searching his face. "No, of course not. You're always welcome," he says formally. The words hang in the air between them. "Guest." The word grates on his ears, but he has no other. He calls the housekeeper to get the room ready, though she's always ready. He helps her carry her bag. There's silence between them, the same silence that fills the house. But now there's a crack in it. A crack in the form of her footsteps on the stairs, the click of the door closing in the back room. Minjin remains downstairs. He listens as the silence slowly returns. But it's not the same anymore. It's different now. The next morning, they meet for breakfast. The table in the sunny dining room is perfectly set. Fresh fruit, rice, soup, everything as it should be. The housekeeper disappears, leaving them alone. Naomi sits across from him, silently eating her soup. Minjin scrolls through the news on his tablet, but can't see the words. He feels her gaze on him. "How are your studies?" he asks, without looking up. "Fine. Challenging, but interesting. I defended my project on network security." "That's good." He nods. The pause drags on. "Do you have enough money? Do you need anything?" "I have everything." "Thank you." Silence fills the room again, thick and uncomfortable. The sound of spoons hitting plates seems too loud. Minjin wants to ask why she really came, but he's afraid to hear the answer. Maybe she's in trouble, maybe she wants to say something, or is she just bored? The last thought seems the most unlikely to him. Naomi puts down her spoon. "How are you? Are things going well?" He slowly lowers the tablet. "Things are going well. Everything is calm. Everything is stable." "Stable," she repeats, as if tasting the word. Her gaze glides around the austere, nearly empty room. to the view of the high wall in the garden. That word describes this place well. Very stable. There's no mockery in her voice, just observation, but it cuts. He understands the subtext. Stable, as in unchanging, as in closed, as in lifeless. He can't find anything to say. He simply nods. Breakfast continues in the same drawn-out silence. The wall between them hasn't crumbled during this brief conversation. It's grown even taller, each on their own side. He is in a world he built for her safety, but which has cut him off from her. She is in a world he knows almost nothing about, and which has now come into his home. After breakfast, Naomi decides to explore the garden. Minjin returns to the study, but can't work. He looks out the window and sees her slowly walking among the stones by the pond, occasionally brushing against the leaves. She studies his world like a museum exhibit. That evening, they find themselves together again in the living room. He offers tea. She accepts. It seems they are both trying to find some common ground, some safe topic. Naomi sits in a chair, her legs tucked under her. She looks down the long hallway leading to the east wing. It's a huge house. I remember getting lost in it as a child, she says. Yes, there are lots of rooms, he replies, especially at that end. It seems like no one ever goes there. Just a cleaner once a week? Minjin pauses, cup in hand. He senses where the conversation is heading. There are utility rooms there. Storage. Nothing interesting. And that room with the heavy metal door at the very end? Is that a storage room too? Her question sounds innocent, but he sees interest in her eyes. More than just curiosity. Purpose. His fingers lightly grip the porcelain. Inside, everything tightens like a string. This room, the heart of his operations. A room with monitors showing every inch of his territory, every movement on the streets he controls. This is where his eyes and ears live. This is the source of his power and his eternal anxiety. This is my private office. I work there. I have expensive equipment there. This is not a place for guests. He says this in a firm, even tone, a tone that does not invite discussion, the tone of a boss. Naomi stares at him for a few seconds. She hears the change. She sees his face harden, the mask closing completely. I see. Sorry for asking. It's just that the door looks very serious, she says finally, looking away toward the window. Security is a serious matter, he says, and the words hang heavy in the air. He said too much, or too little. The room between them has grown even larger, and now there's a specific door in it, one she's noticed, one he'll never open for her. Night falls over the house again. Minjun is in his bedroom. He is not sleeping. He lies in the darkness and stares at the ceiling. He considers her question. Coincidence? Childish curiosity? Or something else? She studied network security. Her mind is sharp, technical. The thought of her intellect being used to study his world sends a cold wave of anxiety through him. He wanted her intelligence to be her ticket to a bright life, not the key to understanding its shadows. He quietly gets up and goes to the window. All is quiet on the grounds. The lights of the security posts are visible. Everything is in its place. Everything is under control. He takes a small communicator from the bedside table. Report, he says quietly into the device. The voice in response is immediate, quiet, and clear. All sectors are calm. No movement. Perimeter clear. Guest is on the second floor in his room. The lights went out an hour ago. Good. Be alert, he says, though he knows it's unnecessary. They are always alert. He puts the communicator back. Security reported her as a guest, and she is, but this report grates on his ears. He lies down again, but sleep doesn't come. He listens to the silence of the house. Now he hears not emptiness, but a presence. Her presence. 2 walls away, a person sleeps, a part of him, and yet completely alien. He remembers her childish laughter, which once echoed through these hallways. Now there is only silence, broken by the hum of the ventilation system and the distant footsteps of the guard in the courtyard. His thoughts kept returning to that metal door. He'd checked the logs this afternoon. No one had tried to approach. All clear. But her question had opened a Pandora's box in his mind. What if she wanted to know? What if her curiosity overcame his inhibitions? He trusted his systems. But could he trust her? And could he trust himself to be the father she needed right now? Not a shadowy boss guarding his secrets? The night drags on. He tosses and turns. The silence outside is absolute. But inside him, in this silence, a restless question now dwells, and he doesn't know the answer. He only hears the quiet, barely perceptible hum of the servers, coming from that very same east wing. Naomi lies in the darkness, staring at the ceiling. The question of that room haunts her. Not her father's tone, she was accustomed to his restraint, but the way his face changed. It wasn't just a prohibition, it was a flash of something else. Anxiety, fear, hidden beneath a mask of severity. This room is the key to his world, which he so carefully conceals. She stands. The floor is cold beneath her bare feet. She listens. The house is asleep. Only somewhere in the distance the clock ticks. She throws on a dark robe and silently opens the door to her room. The hallway is lit only by dim night lamps near the floor. She knows the way, the east wing. Every step she takes is silent. She skirts the cracking floorboards she's known since childhood. The air here seems colder. She approaches the end of the hallway. And there it is, a massive, windowless metal door. Next to it is a keypad with a combination lock and fingerprint reader. Naomi freezes 2 steps away. She hadn't intended to hack, she just wanted to look. But now, having seen the system, her mind starts working automatically. It's an old model of reader. It has vulnerabilities. They'd covered similar ones in the course. Father apparently relies more on external security than on the latest electronics here. Inside, she approaches cautiously. It's incredibly risky, but curiosity and something else, the desire to understand, the desire to find some common ground with her father through his greatest secret, are stronger. She examines the panel in the dim light. There are no cameras right here. A blind spot, paradoxically. He hadn't expected an internal threat. Her fingers reach for the control panel. She makes a few quick manipulations, bringing up the service menu, the loophole the teacher mentioned. A few seconds later, a soft click is heard, yet so loud in the silence. The lock responds. The door slides open slightly. Naomi's breath catches in her throat. She can't believe it worked. She carefully pushes the heavy door and enters. The air inside is dry, smelling of ozone and dust. There is no light, but the room is illuminated by dozens, no, hundreds of flickering screens. Naomi freezes in the doorway, stunned. This isn't just an office. It's a command center. Monitors line the walls from floor to ceiling. They display images in black and white and color. Empty alleys, apartment building entrances, warehouses with locked gates, quiet courtyards, street panoramas. Everywhere is time-stamped and coded. This isn't a city surveillance system. It's a private network, and its scale is staggering. She walks slowly between the rows of server racks, their steady hum filling the room. Her eyes scan the screens. There's a man in a jacket standing on the corner, smoking. There's an empty playground. There's security at some gate. The entire city, or rather, parts of it that are important to her father, lies here, as if in the palm of her hand, and all of it is silent. This is her father's world, a world of quiet, total control. In the center of the room stands a large table with several powerful computers and 6 main monitors. They display maps, lists, and connection logs. Naomi approaches, throwing caution to the wind. This is a complex professional system, and she knows it. The central monitor runs a program for managing distributed network video servers, the same one whose latest version she analyzed for her thesis project 6 months ago. She knows its interface, its architecture, and its many weaknesses. The irony stuns her. He built this surveillance empire, and she learned the key to understanding it in her peaceful university life thousands of kilometers away. Her hand almost instinctively reaches for the mouse. The cursor comes to life on the screen. She scrolls through the tree structure of cameras, hundreds of them, grouped by district, by facility. It's an incredibly complex and well-thought-out system, and now it's essentially unlocked. Her father, confident in the door's physical security, didn't lock the workstations inside. Naomi is filled with the excitement of a researcher. She sees more than just a spy system. She sees a beautiful technical problem. She wants to understand it more deeply. Maybe she can find something that will help her, help him, make the system more secure. It would be their common cause. She opens the Network Protocol Management console. She sees active connections and data streams. Then her gaze falls on one strange, unlabeled module in the list. It stands out for its namelessness among the neatly named others. A backup channel? A test script? She thinks. Perhaps a vulnerability. A hole in its own defenses. She right-clicks it to view properties. A menu appears on the screen. She searches for info or logs, but her finger trembles a millimeter in her nervous tension. Instead of safely viewing the properties, she lands on a barely noticeable, almost background blending command in the drop-down list. Run repairing script. She manages to realize the mistake, but it's too late. Her finger has already pressed. For a second, nothing happens. Naomi freezes, staring at the screen, hoping it's a harmless command. And then, one by one, the central monitors begin to go dark. Not flickering, not blurring, just going dark, as if someone were pulling a cord. A black square. Another. A wave of shutdown runs through the walls of monitors. The hum of the servers continues, but the room is plunged into darkness, broken only by the dim light of the few remaining working screens. Naomi's blood runs cold. Panic, sharp and sickening, grips her throat. She's broken this. She's broken his most important tool, his eyes and ears. What has she done? She frantically grabs the mouse, tries to bring up the menu, press cancel, but the interface isn't responding. Lines of incomprehensible code scroll across one of the remaining monitors. The process she started can no longer be stopped. She recoils from the table, staring at the dark walls in horror. The silence in the room now seems ominous. The steady hum of the system sounds like a mockery. She destroyed an entire world with one wrong click, and now she'll have to face her father when he finds out. The thought paralyzes her more than the sight of the black screens. The panic lasts for a few seconds. Naomi stands, her hands pressed to her mouth, staring at the dark screens. Then, just as suddenly as they went dark, the monitors come to life again. But the picture is different. These are unfamiliar empty alleys and courtyards. The first screen shows a luxurious office with panoramic windows overlooking the city at night. Two men in expensive suits are sitting on a leather sofa. They are chatting. The second monitor displays a ceiling-mounted view of a large underground garage filled with rows of identical trucks. The third shows a cozy restaurant where a lively conversation is taking place at a table. The faces are unfamiliar. The atmosphere is alien. Naomi slowly moves closer. She looks at the code in the corner of one of the screens. It's not her father's code. It's a different prefix, a different numbering. She glances at the map on the central monitor, a heat map of activity. But these aren't the areas she saw a moment ago. These are different parts of the city. It took her a few more moments for her brain to piece together the puzzle. The script she'd launched. It wasn't a kill command. It was some kind of aggressive interception protocol, a reverse hack. Its system, like a tentacle, reached out to other similar networks and found them, hacked them. She didn't destroy his surveillance world. She redirected it. Now his servers don't see his domain. They see the internal cameras of the Pak clan, his main rivals. They see everything. The realization brings not relief, but a new, colder wave of horror. She must take it all back, now, while no one knows. She rushes to the keyboard. Her fingers fly across the keys. She calls the command line, tries to stop the process, find a rollback point. Lines of code flash across the screen. The system responds, but doesn't listen. The interception protocol works like a virus, self-replicating, finding new entry points into the enemy network. She tries manually entering her IP addresses and blocking external connections. Error. Insufficient privileges, the system reports. Access denied. Unable to terminate the system process. She tries to reboot one of the servers. The monitors go dark and then light up again, with the same alien images. The interception continues. She feels a cold sweat break out on her forehead. She has forced the system into a mode she doesn't fully understand. She is a hacker trapped inside a trap of her own making. She tries again and again. Every failure tightens the noose around her neck. Time is running out. The guard shift might come soon. Her father might wake up. Her thoughts are jumbled. She just needs to turn everything off. Pull the cords. But that will destroy all the data and will certainly trigger an alarm. It will be catastrophic. She stops, breathing heavily. She looks at the screens. On one of them, a man in an office is talking angrily into a phone. She can't hear the sound. Sound! She searches for the volume slider, finds it, and turns it on. A clear, slightly hissing voice comes over the speakers. He said the delivery is supposed to be here by tomorrow morning. If the trucks aren't at the warehouse by 5, we'll lose everything. Do you understand? By 5. The voice is clear, every angry accent audible. She doesn't just see them, she hears them. Every conversation, every word is now coming here, into this room. Naomi freezes, stunned. She's so focused on the sound that she doesn't notice the soft creak of the door opening. What are you doing here? The voice, hoarse with unspoken rage, cuts through the silence like a knife. Naomi flinches and turns around sharply. Minjin stands in the doorway. He's wearing a dark robe, his face shadowed, but even in the dim light, it's distorted with shock and anger. He steps inside, his gaze sliding from her pale, frightened face to the walls of monitors showing alien rooms. "Father, Her voice breaks. "I asked what you were doing here!" His voice rises, but he immediately clamps it down, turning it into an icy whisper. He steps closer, and she sees his fists clench. "How did you get in? What have you done to my system?" He looks at the screens, and his anger begins to give way to bewilderment. He recognizes the faces on the main monitor. It's Lee, Pak's right-hand man, and Pak himself, talking on the phone. "This isn't a recording. This is a live image, from his cameras. This isn't your system," Naomi says quietly, taking a step back from the table. Minjin turns sharply to her, ready to unleash all his fury. At that moment, Park's voice comes over the speakers again. Calmer now, more businesslike. "Minjin lately, I don't want any surprises. This cargo must pass unnoticed. It's our future." The words hang in the air. Minjin freezes. His gaze is glued to the screen, where his arch-rival's face is visible. He hears every word, the plan, the place, the time. His own cameras, his ears. They work for him now, but not his. He slowly, very slowly, moves his gaze from the screen to his daughter. The anger in his eyes hasn't faded yet, but it's already eclipsed by something else. Stunned, confusion. He looks at her trembling hands. At the control panel, where lines of interception codes scroll, he hears a continuous stream of valuable information from the enemy's lips. "What?" he begins, then trails off, at a loss for words. "What have you done, Naomi?" This time, there's more to his voice than just anger. It's a mixture of horror, hope, and a chilling awareness of the possibilities that now, in this very second, open up before him. The seconds drag on like hours. Minjin's anger still simmers deep down, beneath a cloud of stronger, clearer emotions. His gaze darts from his daughter's pale face to the monitors where his enemies live their lives, unaware that their every move is now visible. He listens to that voice, Park's voice, talking about him, about his attention, about his plans. A brain honed over years to assess threats and opportunities clicks like a lock. It gathers facts in the blink of an eye. His system is dead to his cameras, but she is alive and working. It shows the inside of Pak's domain. It transmits their conversations in real time. This isn't a malfunction. This isn't an enemy attack. This is an interception. An aggressive, deep, total interception of an alien surveillance system. His own network somehow hacked into Pak's network and appropriated all its data streams. And his daughter did it, by accident. One click, the anger finally recedes, washed away by a cold, all-consuming wave of understanding. This is more than a chance. It's an absolute, overwhelming advantage. He sees and hears everything his main rival does and plans. In real time. No risk, no spies, no leaks. He looks at Naomi. She still looks terrified, expecting an explosion. But now he doesn't see her as an intruder. He sees the source of this miracle. Random, dangerous, but a miracle nonetheless. Minjin turns away from her and steps toward the main desk. His movements become sharp, precise. All personal emotion disappears from his face. Now he is simply the commander. He picks up the intercom, the direct line to the security post. The voice on the line immediately answers, "Yes, boss? Here to the operations room immediately. Just you. Don't tell anyone. This is the order for silence. Got it? The order for silence. Got it. Coming!" The guard's voice hardens, all traces of drowsiness disappearing. Minjin hangs up. He looks at the screens again. His fingers grip the edge of the table. He needs to be sure. He needs to know for sure that this isn't a mirage, not a temporary glitch. He leans toward the microphone connected to the system. Naomi notices his movement. "What are you doing?" she whispers. "Testing," he says curtly. He turns on the recording. On one of the monitors, Park can be seen hanging up and saying something to his assistant. Minjin turns on the audio amplifier for that channel. "Schedule a meeting with the inspectors for Wednesday," Pak says. "We need to sort out the paperwork for the new warehouse. Have them prepare regular envelopes." The assistant nods and makes a note on his tablet. Minjin turns off the recording. He has more than just words now. He has proof. Specific, with a date and action. He turns to Naomi. "Did you hear?" She nods silently, her eyes wide. There's a soft knock on the door. Minjin says, "Come in." The senior guard, Taeyong, enters the room. His eyes widen momentarily at the sight of Naomi and the alien images on the walls, but his face remains stony. He awaits orders. "Taeyong, No one is entering or leaving this wing without my express permission. No one! Not even the cleaning lady. Tell the shift. All outside patrols are operating as usual, but inside, complete silence. No questions, no talking. If anyone asks, tell them it's scheduled maintenance. Understood? Absolutely understood, boss. Now go and bring Kehoe here. Just him, quiet. Taeyong nods and disappears just as silently. Kehoe is his chief technician, the man who maintains the entire system. Naomi stands, leaning against the server rack. She watches her father transform into a different person. This person, the one she only guessed at. He's cold, precise. His commands are unquestionable. This frightens her even more than his anger. Kehoe enters the room, trying to hide his sleepy face. He's wearing a rumpled sweater and wiping his glasses. Boss, you called? The scheduled maintenance is only at... He falls silent when he sees Naomi. Then his gaze falls on the monitors. He blinks. He moves closer to the central table, leans in and squints. His drowsiness evaporates instantly. What? What is this? He jabs at the screen displaying Pak's office. This is the internal camera in Pak's office on the embankment. I recognize the interior. Where did... He grabs the mouse and starts clicking feverishly, opening system logs and lists of active connections. His face expresses utter incomprehension, which gradually gives way to shock. Boss, that's impossible. This is our server, but it's not receiving video from our cameras. It's receiving streams from their cameras. We're looking at their logs. There, see? These are their IPs, their device IDs. We're inside their network. We see everything their cameras see, and we hear everything their microphones hear. He turns to Minjin, his eyes wide with shock behind his glasses. How? How did this happen? This is a level of hacking I don't... It doesn't matter how. Minjin cuts him off coldly. What matters is that it works, and I need to be 100% sure. Is it stable? Can they detect it? Kehoe dives back into the screens, studying the interception logs. The protocol. It's deep. It's embedded itself in their core. They won't see it normally. To them, their system is working as usual. And ours. Ours is simply mirroring their data. It's brilliant and... scary. So far, everything is stable. The streams are running smoothly. Minjin exhales slowly. He looks at the wall, where Park's face is visible close up on one of the monitors. It's no longer the face of an enemy. It's a target. An open, vulnerable target. Okay, he says quietly. Kehoe, you stay here. Your job is one. Make sure this image doesn't disappear. Not for a second. Don't eat, don't drink, don't leave. If there's anything, even the slightest hesitation, report it to me immediately. Taeyong will provide you with everything. Understood? Understood, boss. The technician nods, already settling into the chair, his fingers habitually clicking on the keys. Minjun finally turns to Naomi. Technical confirmation received. The miracle is real. Now there's not a drop of anger in his gaze. There's a cold, hard assessment. And deep inside, a spark of something that could be respect, or the beginning of a new, very dangerous plan. Kehoe, staring at the monitors, is typing quickly. Minjunan stands next to him, arms crossed. Naomi doesn't dare move. She's still waiting for her father's icy shell to break and for the anger to return, but he just stares at the screens. Play the last 10 minutes of the recording on Channel 3, he says quietly to Kehoe. The technician nods, and a second later, the recording starts on one of the free monitors. Minjin watches as Park gives orders. He hears street names, amounts, names. His face is a stony mask, but his eyes are alive, quick, absorbing every detail. He turns to Naomi. Come here. She hesitantly takes a few steps toward the table. Look, he points to the monitor with the recording. What do you see? She looks. I see. Planning. They're discussing a shipment. They're discussing an illegal shipment through the old port, under cover of night. Now we know the time, the location, the number of vehicles, the names of the people on their side. He says this calmly, as if reading a technical specification. And that's just one conversation. Right now, their system generates dozens of these conversations for us every hour. He looks at her. Your click opened a door, not to my room, to their homes, to their heads. Naomi is silent. She understands the scale. Now she, too, sees it not as a technical glitch, but as a weapon, enormous and precise. I didn't mean to. I just wanted to see, she finally says. It doesn't matter anymore, he replies. His voice is still devoid of emotion, but there is no accusation in it. What matters is what we do about it now. Together. The word together hangs in the air. It's the first time he said it in this context, not as father and daughter at a painful dinner, but as allies. She nods slowly. Minjun steps away from the desk and begins to slowly pace the room. His gaze glides over the rows of monitors, but he doesn't see images. He sees diagrams, connections, possibilities. They think they have a secret, he says, more to himself than to them. They think they operate in the shadows. And now their shadow is our mirror. We must act not like a sledgehammer. We must act like a surgeon, more precisely like a virus, silently, by exploiting their own weaknesses. He stops in front of a large monitor, displaying a map of the city. The plan will be called Silence. We won't attack first. We'll use their own plans against them. We'll make sure their business collapses on its own, through accidents, mistakes by their own people, surprise inspections by the authorities. We'll know about every deal they make before it happens, and we'll be ready. He turns to Kiho. You need an assistant for monitoring. I'll assign you 2 of my most trusted ones. You'll train them to only collect information, without touching anything. Your team is now the center. Everything you hear, everything you see, sort by importance and urgency. Locations, names, amounts, times. Everything. Kiho nods, his eyes shining with excitement. Then Minjun looks at Naomi. And you understand how their system works now, better than anyone except their technicians. You'll be working with Kiho, find the weak points in their operations. Not in their technology, but in their business. Where are they rushing things? Where are their unreliable people? Where do they skimp on security? You need to think like them, but see all their cards. He doesn't ask if she agrees. He speaks as if he's giving an order. But for Naomi, it's not an order. It's a challenge. It's a way to correct her mistake, and perhaps finally understand her father, entering his world not as a guest, but as part of the team. She nods again, more confidently. Work begins immediately. Kiho and Naomi sit at adjacent terminals. She starts a digital spreadsheet. Kiho dictates data from overheard conversations. Warehouse number 7, Old Port, says Kiho, looking down at her notes. Mentioned 3 times. Complaints about a leaky roof. Repairs postponed until next quarter. Naomi adds to the spreadsheet. Warehouse number 7. Vulnerability. Physical security. Water. Risk to cargo. Logistics manager. Name is Kim. Nervous in conversation with Park. Asking for a payment deferral for a previous incident. Incident not specified. Naomi writes, Kim logistics, vulnerability, potential debt, pressure. Unreliability? She looks at the monitors. She sees that same Kim now sitting in his modest office, biting his nails as he stares at the computer screen. She sees his fear. This is no longer just an employee. This is a man under pressure, a weak link. On another screen, they see a meeting underway at Pak's office. They're discussing an upcoming major deal for the supply of electronics. One of his subordinates timidly points out that the drivers on the route are new and haven't been fully vetted. Pak dismisses this. The main thing is that the cargo gets there. The rest is just details. Route echo, Naomi says immediately, creating a new entry. Vulnerability, inexperienced staff, drivers, risk, route deviation, errors, potential information leakage. Minjun stands by the map. He listens to them. He hears them gleaning structure from the stream of casual conversations. Not just words, but stress, cracks, greed, fear. Everything that holds Park's empire together and that could destroy it. Good, he says quietly. Very good. Continue. Don't look for mistakes. Look for patterns in their mistakes, their style, their stupidity. He looks at Naomi, who no longer looks frightened. She's focused. Her fingers quickly tap the keyboard, her eyes darting between the video monitor and the spreadsheet. She's found her purpose. She sees the system and breaks it not with code, but with analysis. She's found a way to be useful. And for the first time in many years, Minjun sees his daughter not as a child to be protected, but as a person he can trust with a part of his world, a dangerous, dark world, into which she herself, with a single click, has entered. The monitor room is bustling with activity around the clock. Kiho and Naomi, now with 2 assistants, take turns monitoring constantly. The vulnerability index is growing. Minjun studies it in the mornings, sitting in his usual office. It's no longer just a list, it's a plan. He calls people to him, one by one. No phones, no notes. Brief meetings in his office. The first to arrive is Taeyong, the head of security. Taeyong! In 3 days. Old Port, warehouse number 7. 3 trucks will be arriving. They need to be detained for a long time. Make sure the city services have a compelling reason to check this warehouse on that Wednesday morning. An anonymous tip about violations. Anything. Without our direct involvement. Clear. Taeyong nods, understanding in his eyes. It will be done. The second to enter is Chang Min, the man in charge of communications. Park's manager Kim is having debt problems. Serious ones. He'll need money in 2 days. Really? Make sure he's offered a way out, through our contacts. Money in exchange for a little information. He's weak right now, he'll agree. Changmin smiles a thin smile, already looking for an approach. The third is Myong, who manages finances. Park has a large transfer through Vostochny Vader Bank on Thursday. We need the bank to have technical problems with international transactions that day, for 24 hours. And we need the right people at the tax office to know about it, carefully. Technical problems are our specialty, Myong quietly replies. Everyone leaves with a specific mission. No one knows the full picture. Each is just a cog in a larger machine, designed to bring down the enemy's machine without even touching it. Minjin acts as a conductor, hearing the entire music of the enemy orchestra and knowing exactly when each instrument should fail. The operation begins not with a roar, but with silence. It's early morning. The city is just waking up. The monitor room is tensely silent. The screens show the ordinary life of Pak's domain. The night guards yawn. Their offices are still dark. Warehouse number 7 in the old port is empty. Minjun has been here since dawn. He sips black coffee, staring at the central monitor, which displays key feeds. Park's office, his logistics control room, the entrance to warehouse number 7. Naomi sits next to him. She stayed up all night, checking the latest data. There are dark circles under her eyes, but her gaze is sharp and focused. Everyone in position, Taeyong quietly reports, appearing in the doorway. Minjun nods. He glances at his watch. We're getting started. Phase 1, Communications. In the basement of one of Minjun's buildings, in a room filled with nondescript equipment, 2 of his technicians begin working. Their task is not to intercept calls, but to jam them, temporarily. Specifically, at 6:30 a.m., when Pak's dispatcher at warehouse number 7 is supposed to receive confirmation of the truck's departure, his mobile phone suddenly loses signal. He shakes the phone in confusion and goes outside. Nothing happens. The landline on his desk is also silent. He runs to the neighboring office. Same story. A silent field forms for several hundred meters around the warehouse. All networks are overloaded with false signals from mobile jammers disguised in a delivery van parked nearby. Meanwhile, manager Kim, nervously drinking coffee at home, experiences a blackout when his internet and cell phone service are cut off. He taps the router and checks his phone. Silence. The panic he was already feeling about his debts overwhelms him. He can't reach his people, can't get instructions. He's alone with his fears. Everything is working fine at Pak's central office. But at precisely 7:05, when the first important call from the bank should have come in, the building's connection goes down. It only lasts for 5 minutes. But that's enough. The call from Vostochny Vader Bank doesn't go through. Pak's secretary tries unsuccessfully to call back. At the same time, the city's control service receives an anonymous report of serious environmental safety violations and the storage of unknown materials at warehouse number 7 in the old port. The report is detailed and compelling. Pak, already in his office, frowns when he's informed of the communication problems. Nonsense. They'll fix it. Call the backup lines. But the backup lines are already busy. His people all over the city are starting to encounter minor but annoying problems. Outages, interference, malfunctions. Minjun sees the beginning of this web on his monitor. He sees the warehouse dispatcher rushing around, trying to find a working phone. He sees Kim's pale face. He sees Park dismissing the problem, not yet realizing that this is no accident, but the first, almost imperceptible click of a trap. Communication under control, the dry voice in his earpiece reports. Minjun takes a sip of coffee. His face is unreadable. He looks at Naomi. Stage 2, warehouse, launch. Naomi nods. She presses a key on her terminal, sending a prearranged signal to Taeyong's team. The signal means, anonymous call received, services are on the way. The trap, laid for days, is beginning to spring. The first strike will come not from them, but from city inspectors who have received breaking news. They won't even have to lie. Warehouse number 7 really does have a leak, and the paperwork, as they will soon discover, is in disrepair. Park himself created this vulnerability. Minjun merely pointed it out at the right moment. The screens in Minjin's room show 3 gray city inspection vehicles approaching warehouse number 7. The guard on duty at the entrance, having received no instructions due to a communications failure, opens the gate. He assumes it's a routine inspection, but hasn't been warned about it. The inspectors enter. Their chest-mounted cameras transmit images directly to the service's servers, and through Park's hacked network, they also transmit images to Minjun's monitors. Naomi and Kiho see everything through their eyes. The first inspector points out traces of water under the old roof. The second demands documentation for the materials being stored. The dispatcher, pale, frantically searches for folders. The documents are in disarray. They find discrepancies in the invoices. One of the inspectors calls over a colleague and points to something in the corner of the warehouse. Several unmarked boxes are there. They are opened. The inspector's voice comes through the microphone clearly. This isn't according to the documents. There's no marking. We're taking samples. Park, in his office, had already received a fragmentary report from the security guard via someone else's phone. His face darkened. What samples? Don't give us anything. Call our lawyer to the site, immediately. But the lawyer couldn't get through to the warehouse. The road was blocked by a supposedly accidental utility repair arranged by Taeyong's team an hour earlier. The trucks carrying the cargo, which were supposed to arrive at the warehouse, were stuck half a kilometer away. Their drivers couldn't call to confirm unloading. The trap was sprung, without a single shot, because of the leaky roof and the disorganized paperwork. While Park attempts to remotely control the chaos in the warehouse, a second mechanism is triggered. At precisely 9 o'clock a.m. at the East Wind Bank, the technical service, having received a recommendation from Myong, initiates a scheduled security check. All major transactions are suspended for an hour. Among them is Park's transfer. His financial manager calls the bank, but gets an answering machine reporting temporary technical difficulties. Half an hour later, a pale-faced assistant bursts into Park's office. "Boss, I'm calling from the tax office. They have questions about yesterday's transactions through Vostochny Veter. They're asking for clarification, and they mentioned freezing the accounts pending clarification." Park jumps up. "Freeze? On what grounds?" But the grounds have already been laid. The anonymous information Myong sent to the appropriate authorities has worked. The accounts of his main companies are frozen, due to an investigation into possible money laundering. The money is frozen. He can't pay suppliers, issue salaries, or settle debts. His financial system, as complex as Minjin's, is failing at its core. On the monitors in Minjin's room, he sees everything in real time. On one screen, Pak screams into the phone, his face contorted with rage. The calls keep coming in one after another. The problems keep mounting. A connection failure in one area, a surprise fire inspection at the restaurant that serves as his informal club in another. On another screen, his assistants are rushing around the office, bumping into each other. No one can get through on the phone. The feeling of total isolation grows. The third screen, a camera in the conference room. His closest subordinates are gathered there. They talk rapidly, interrupting each other. You can hear fragments. A system failure. This is no accident. Someone is getting to us. The look in their eyes isn't just worry, it's fear. They're used to power and control, and now that control is gone. Their world, which seemed so solid, is crumbling like a house of cards from a series of small but precise blows. They don't see the hand that's inflicting them. They see only chaos, which is the most terrifying thing of all. The first to break is Kim, the logistics manager. His own financial woes, pressure from Minjun through proxies, and the complete chaos in the clan's affairs become the last straw. He sits at home, staring at his silent phone. Then he picks up an old push-button phone, bought just in case, and dials the number left for him by well-wishers from Changmin's men. "I agree," he says quietly when the phone is answered. "What do I need to do?" An hour later, he leaves the house and heads to the agreed-upon location, carrying a flash drive with data on future routes and contacts of Pak's secondary suppliers. This isn't a complete disaster. This is the first crack. The head of security at one of the secondary warehouses follows him. He sees his colleague from warehouse number 7 being taken away for questioning and realizes the loyalty system has collapsed. He doesn't want to share his fate. He contacts an old acquaintance, whom he suspects is connected to Minjun, and passes on information about the security plans of other facilities. They don't come to Minjun in person to confess. They simply stop resisting, surrendering what they have in exchange for the promise of safety or money. Their betrayal isn't loud. It's a quiet whisper, the rustle of transmitted data, a silent disappearance from Park's radar. Each such departure is another cog in his machine falling apart. The machine still holds together, but its movement is already sluggish, the grinding noise becoming ever more audible. Minjun, watching this through the screens, merely makes another note in his plan. Plan silence is working. The enemy isn't simply under attack, they are rotting from within. The situation is spiraling out of control for Pak. His empire built on fear and money is crumbling in a single day. Accounts are frozen, key assets are under investigation, and people are disappearing or dropping out one by one. Through the communication blackouts, fragmentary messages reach him. We can't hold it. Everything's lost. They're everywhere. He understands. This isn't a series of mishaps. This is a planned assassination, and the only one who could have pulled it off so quietly and precisely was Minjun. The thought that his eternal rival knew his every move fills him with icy horror. It means there's no safe place here. In his own fortress, his last stronghold is a private airfield 40 minutes outside the city. A small plane awaits him there, fueled and ready for takeoff. An emergency supply of cash and new documents are also kept there. A rainy day plan. He orders the driver to prepare an armored car. He takes only one briefcase with the most valuable items. The rest is irrelevant. In the monitor room, Minjun and Naomi watch this decision unfold in real time. They see Park leap from his seat in his office, run down the hallway, pushing past an assistant who's trying to speak. They switch to the camera in his building's underground garage. They see him jump into a black SUV. The driver hits the gas. He's running, Naomi says quietly. To the airfield? To the airfield, Minjun confirms. His voice is calm. He has a plan. But now it's our plan, too. They switch between the camera feeds they now control. Street cameras en route to the airfield. A camera at the airfield checkpoint itself. An interior camera in the hangar, where his plane is parked. They have the full picture. They see the panic in Pak's eyes as he looks out the car window. They hear his ragged breathing through the car microphone he installed himself for security. Naomi looks at the screen, where Pak's face is in close-up. She sees not a powerful boss, but a hunted, frightened man. What will happen when he arrives? She asks. Minjun looks at another monitor. It shows a static image, a hangar, a plane, and several figures in airport security uniforms. He'll be here! But the people waiting for him aren't the ones he expects to see. Pak's SUV approaches the airport checkpoint at breakneck speed. The guard, instead of opening the barrier, steps forward and gestures to stop the car. Pak's face contorts with rage. He rolls down the window to scream. But at that moment, two more men in ordinary clothes emerge from the booth. Their postures are confident, their faces impassive. One of them approaches the window. Through the checkpoint camera, Minjun and Naomi see Park say something sharp. The man responds calmly, showing some documents. Park turns pale. These aren't his security guards. They're people from the National Financial Monitoring Agency. The documents Mi-yun passed on to them through a complex chain of command worked. He's been placed on the wanted list for suspicion of large-scale financial fraud. Border Control has already been alerted. Pak tries to protest, but the man points to the documents again and nods to his partners. They open the SUV's doors. Pak resists at first, but then his shoulders sag. He realizes the futility of it. They pull him out of the car. He walks, head bowed, to a regular police car. The briefcase containing the money and documents is taken away. The camera in the hangar shows the pilot of his plane, having received a short command over the radio, turning off the engines and getting out, shrugging his shoulders. That's all there is to it. No fight, no pursuit, just a quiet, bureaucratic arrest for a reason he himself created by laundering money. His empire collapsed without a single shot being fired. His men either surrendered or fled. His assets are frozen or will soon be taken over by others through legal bankruptcy and confiscation procedures. Minjun leans back in his chair. He looks at the screen, showing the empty hangar, and at another, showing the car with Park driving away. The silence in the room is different now. The tension that has been building for weeks is gone. All that remains is the steady hum of the servers. Is it over? Naomi asks, her voice hollow. For him, yes, Minjun replies. His story is over. His organization no longer exists. He turns to his daughter. He sees weariness on her face, but also understanding. She's seen the whole process from start to finish. She's been a part of it. Plan silence is complete, he says. We no longer have any competitors. The morning dawned calmly. The city awoke as usual. A brief report about the arrest of the well-known businessman Park on suspicion of financial irregularities flashed across the news feeds. For most, it was just another scandalous story from the world of big money. No one felt the ground beneath their feet tremble and shift slightly. No one saw how the shadow of one clan dissolved, and the shadow of another, the Minjin clan, became the sole shadow, covering important areas of the city. Minjin's house was quiet, but it was a different kind of silence. Not the tense silence of anticipation, but a deep, almost tangible stillness after a long storm. The guards at their posts were more relaxed. The housekeeper hummed as she set the breakfast table. The air was clean and fresh, as if after a thunderstorm. Minjin stepped out into the garden. He looked at the pond, at the high walls. Everything remained the same, but everything had changed. His greatest threat had been eliminated, not in a confrontation that would have engendered chaos and vengeance, but quietly, almost gracefully. He inhaled the cool air. For the first time in years, he felt not vigilance, not guardedness, but confident control, complete and utter. Naomi found him in the garden. She approached slowly, carrying 2 cups of tea. She held one out to him. He took it, nodding. They stood silently, looking at the water. "I didn't mean to cause you so much trouble," Naomi finally said. She wasn't looking at him, but at the ripples left by a fallen leaf in the pond. "You didn't cause any trouble," Minjin replied. His voice was unusually soft. "You changed the rules of the game." She looked at him. "I thought I was protecting you, shielding you from all this," he continued, "by sending you away, by making this house a fortress. But it turns out the only one who could truly understand my world and use it was you. I just pressed the wrong button," she said, with a slight, bitter smile. "No, chance is just the first step. Everything that came after that wasn't chance. It was analysis, strategy, composure. What I've been teaching my best people for years. It's in your blood." He paused. "I was afraid this world would swallow you up if you got too close. But it turns out you can control it, in your own way." "It's a scary world," Naomi said quietly. "Yes, but it's real. And now you see it in its entirety, without illusions." He turned to face her. "I can't change who I've become, and I can't erase what you saw, but I can offer you a choice. You can leave, return to your old life, to the light, and I will provide you with everything. Or, she looked up at him, or you can stay, not as a guest, and not as a casual assistant. This world is now partly your creation. You can help shape it further, so that the likes of Puck don't decide how it works." Naomi looked for a long time at the tea in her hands, then at the house, at the window of that very room. She wasn't thinking about power. She was thinking about understanding. Finally, she understood her father, and he saw her. "Truly, I'm staying," she said simply. Later that day, Minjin led her back to the East Wing, to the monitor room. Kehoe and his aides stood respectfully at their entrance. Images were once again glowing on the walls, but now it was a mixture. Some cameras had returned to monitoring Minjin's own assets, while a few key feeds remained focused on the offices and warehouses of Park's former men to monitor the transition. Chaos had given way to order. Their order. Minjun approached the main desk. Next to his chair was another, equally comfortable one, with a new monitor. "This is your place," he said. "The room with the monitors isn't just mine anymore. It's our command center. Your tasks will be different. Not just threat analysis. You'll be helping build a system, one that will prevent us from having to do what we've done too often. A system of prediction, of prevention. You won't just be looking at the enemy. You'll be looking at the entire city and finding opportunities within it, for business, for development, for stability." Naomi slowly sat down in the chair. She rested her hands on the keyboard. She felt neither a guest nor an intruder. She felt at home. It was a strange, cold world, full of screens and the quiet hum of the room, but it was a world in which she had a role, a responsibility, and, finally, a connection with her father, not through idle chatter over breakfast, but through a shared purpose. Minjin watched as she opened new files, studying the network architecture with different goals. He didn't see her as his little daughter. He saw intelligence, strength, and air. Not necessarily an heir to his affairs as they currently stood, but an heir to his position, his vision of control, and perhaps she could build something he'd never gotten around to, something more lasting and less shady. He quietly left the room, leaving her alone to get her bearings. The door to the command center was no longer locked. It was open to her, forever, and somewhere in the city, a new day was beginning. calm and predictable, under an invisible, but now far more attentive and intelligent gaze. Naomi was left alone in the room. The steady hum of the servers, now familiar to every detail, filled the space. She ran her finger across the surface of her new monitor. It was cool and clean. At first, she simply observed. Kehoe and his assistants worked, occasionally exchanging short, purely technical remarks. They didn't look at her with curiosity or apprehension. They worked. She was now part of this workflow. It was the most honest sign of acceptance. She opened the program, the very one that had started it all. But now she looked at it with different eyes, not like a student on a lab project, nor like a frightened burglar. She saw a tool, a very powerful and very dangerous one. Her finger reached for the mouse, but she stopped herself. Not today. Today she needed to understand what already existed. She began to organize it. She created new folders, not by the names of enemy targets, but by data types, logistics, financial flows, personnel, infrastructure. She began transferring information collected during Operation Silence into them. This was no longer a spreadsheet for war. It was a knowledge base, an archive of how an organization collapses, so that she could understand how to build a resilient one. Kehoe quietly approached her. He placed a cup of green tea next to her keyboard. "Thank you," Naomi said, looking up from the screen. "First shift ends," he announced. "We're handing over the duty. You should rest, too. The system is stable, automatic. Alerts are set." She nodded, but didn't move. "Just a little longer. I want to finish the structure." Kehoe didn't insist. He left, leaving her with the new duty officers, who silently took their places. She finished her tea and immersed herself in her work again. Now, without rushing or panicking, she saw things she'd missed before, patterns. Not only Pack's weaknesses, but also his strengths, which ultimately didn't save him. Over-centralization of decisions, blind confidence in his own invulnerability, reluctance to invest in boring things like cybersecurity or reliable document management. She took notes, not for her father, for herself. This was her first real analysis. Minjin reappeared in the room late in the afternoon. He looked calm, rested. He approached her and looked at her screen, at the open windows with diagrams and classifications. "What is this?" he asked. "A map of collapse," Naomi replied. "To understand how not to build." He stood silently, studying her sketches. Then he nodded. "The right approach. But the past alone is not enough. We need to look to the future." He placed a thin paper folder in front of her, old-fashioned, without a single chip. "Your first independent task, not related to current affairs. Pure analytics." She opened the Dunheen folder. Inside were printouts of financial statements from 3 legal, mid-sized transport companies. Nothing criminal, just business. You need to choose one. The one with the most potential for a quiet acquisition or partnership. Explain why. Deadline? 3 days. She looked at him. This was a test, but not of loyalty. It was a test of the ability to see opportunities in the usual boring flow of numbers and facts. A test of strategic thinking. "Good," she said. Naomi didn't go to dinner. She asked for her food to be brought here. The technicians on duty exchanged glances but complied. Gradually, they became accustomed to her presence, not as an event, but as a new feature of the room. She set the folder with the companies aside. First, she needed to finish her first voluntary project. By midnight, the knowledge-based structure was ready. She ran cross-analysis algorithms so the system would automatically suggest connections between different types of data. For example, between a manager's complaint about equipment and the subsequent delivery delay. Between a new management appointment and a route change. While the program was running, she picked up her father's folder. She turned on another computer and began studying companies. She wasn't just looking for profit. She was looking for weak managers, an outdated fleet of vehicles, bank debts, inefficient supply chains. She was looking for things that could be improved with resources and the right management. She thought not like a corporate raider, but like an engineer who sees a broken mechanism that can be fixed and made profitable. By 3 o'clock in the morning, her neck and back were stiff. She leaned back in her chair. Her algorithms worked silently on the main screen, constructing complex relationship diagrams. On the second screen, balance sheets and company owner histories were displayed. She stood to stretch her legs and walked over to the wall of monitors. The city was asleep. Its streets were filled with the usual nighttime calm. No one knew that somewhere in a quiet house on a hill, the daughter of the man who now controlled almost everything was learning to read between the lines of his new world. not to threaten him, to understand him. She returned to the desk and saved all the files. She turned off the extra monitors, leaving only the system ones on. The room was plunged into semi-darkness, lit only by the flickering light of the main screens. She picked up the folder and left. The hallway was dark and quiet. She went into her room and placed the folder on the desk. Tomorrow she would begin writing a report for her father. And the day after, perhaps, she would offer him the first ideas for modernizing their own surveillance system, based on Pac's mistakes. She lay down, but sleep wouldn't come. It wasn't lines of code or balance numbers that were before her eyes. It was her father's face in the garden, when he said, "You've changed the rules of the game," and his calm, appraising expression when he handed her the folder. There was no parental tenderness in it. There was professional trust. And for her, after so many years of estrangement, that meant more than any words. The next morning, Naomi was the first down for breakfast. When Minjun entered, she was sitting with her tablet, studying the market reports. "Good morning," she said. "Good morning," he replied. "How's the analysis going?" "I have some initial thoughts, but I need to check the public ledger data. Can Kehoe help with access?" "Contact him. He's been instructed to assist you with any technical issues." Breakfast passed in near silence, but it was no longer a wall of mistrust. It was the concentrated silence of two people who share a common cause and who save time on empty words. He read his reports. She studied her data. Occasionally, their gazes met across the table, and there was understanding in them. After breakfast, Naomi went back to the East Wing. Kehoe was already there and, without further ado, granted her access to the confidential commercial databases used to screen contractors. She spent the entire day immersed in numbers, comparing, calculating, and making predictions. She occasionally paused to check how her algorithms for analyzing Pac's old network were working. The program yielded several interesting correlations, which she flagged for further study. By the evening of the second day, she had made a decision about the companies. She chose not the most profitable one, but the one with the most complicated logistics and the most demotivated driver staff. Her calculations showed that even a small investment in new software route planning and revising the incentive system could have dramatically increased her efficiency and cost. It wasn't a flashy prize. It was hard work. But that's precisely what made her the right choice. It showed she thought like a builder, not a robber. She began preparing a presentation, not just a conclusion, but a step-by-step action plan with figures, risks, and options. On the third day, exactly at the appointed time, Naomi entered her father's office. She printed out a short summary of her report and placed it in front of him. "Chonghae Company. Logistics," she said. "That's why." He read 3 pages silently. His face was expressionless. Then he put the papers aside. "Sounds right, but there's a risk. Their key client might leave if they sense a change." "I've taken that into account," Naomi said, opening her tablet and showing him a slide. "Here are alternative clients from related industries looking for a reliable carrier. We can lay the groundwork for contacts before the deal. The risk is manageable." He looked at her, and something almost like a smile twitched at the corner of his mouth. "Good. Convey the findings and plan to Changmin. Have his team begin preparations. You will oversee the analytical portion on your end." "Understood." She was already turning to leave when he stopped her. "Naomi." "Yes? You do good work, really." She nodded, feeling an unexpected surge of warmth. "Thank you. And don't stay out too late. The system isn't going anywhere." It was concern, but not of a father to a young daughter. Rather, it was of an older colleague to a promising junior. It was exactly what she needed. From that day on, the monitor room became her domain. She implemented several of her software solutions to automate routine video analysis. Kehoe was initially skeptical of some of her academic ideas, but after one of her small utilities saved his team several hours of work, his attitude changed to respect. Minjun began assigning her more and more tasks, first analytical ones, then ones related to planning safe routes for his own cargo, assessing the reliability of new partners. She learned quickly. She saw a vast puzzle, and now she was being given more and more pieces to help her piece it all together. Sometimes in the evening, the two of them would remain in the command center. He would review operational reports. She would work on her long-term projects. They might go an hour without speaking, but it was no longer an awkward silence. It was the comfortable presence of two people who had finally found a common language, a language of action, strategy, and mutual respect. The walls of the house didn't grow lower, but they ceased to be a barrier between them. They became the walls of a shared space, which they now protected and built together, in different ways, he with experience and an iron will, she with knowledge and a cold analytical mind. And the city beneath them lived its own life, unaware that its tranquility was now being watched not only by the hard eyes of the old boss, but also by the intent, searching gaze of his daughter, who was looking not to the past, but to the future, trying to calculate its trajectory.